the last live talk for today's virtual open house. I'm Bo, Associate Chair, Academic at WICKIMI School of Communication and Information, and I'll be the host for this last session. And as you know, WICKIMI School is having a hybrid form of open house for this year. So you have probably seen the previous two sessions that share the good amount of information about the school already. And also next week, we'll host a physical face-to-face open house where you can visit the school and see the facilities like this TV studio for yourselves, and also have opportunities to ask questions to our current students and also professors. So, and I have a great group of Year 4 students with me who are going to share their own experiences with you. So why don't we hear from them who are here?
Hi, I'm Eunice and I'm doing the journalism track here at WICKIMI School. I'm also doing a second major in business, and in year 1 I took part in Vivo, which is an overseas trip with my friend over here.
Hi, I'm Xuan Yi, but my friends know me as An. I'm actually working on PR and broadcast track here at WICKIMI. I'll talk to you all later about it.
Yeah. Hi everyone, my name is Yao Feng and I am currently on the research track, and I look forward to sharing with you my experience as well.
And I'm Rachel and I'm in the public relations track, and I'm excited to share more about my school life with you.
Alright, so thanks everyone for being here. And I think it's the best way and the most accurate way to learn about the school, hearing from our own current students. So we'll have plenty of time to hear from them, their own experiences. But we want this session to be as much interactive as possible. So you know that we are receiving questions via Slido. So please let the questions come in so that we can answer them toward the end of today's session. I have my iPad with me, so I'll get back to those questions toward the end. But let's first start with probably the most obvious question that you may have in your mind. That is, why to choose WICKIMI School of Communication and Information? Well, the answer sounds also very obvious to me, but let's just hear from, again, our students why they have chosen the WICKIMI School and whether that was the best choice that they ever made so far. So, who wants to go first?
Okay, I'll start. Okay, so WICKIMI, why WICKIMI, right? For myself, I was never good at studying per se, right? If you talk about the very rigorous kind of studying that's required from secondary school, from JC, and that was not my cup of tea. I was always excelling in the stuff that, was more creative, required less of this studying type of stuff. Yeah, so it's not that I wasn't hardworking. It's just that, my skill set belonged to the creative field. And that was why when I saw that there was such an offering, so I came from diploma, later on when I was looking through the uni courses, this thing, communications, actually covers such a wide array of creative fields and skill sets. It allows myself to apply myself in my most authentic way. So that, for me, was the sure choice. Was the way to go.
Yeah. I think I resonate with An because I was also from Poly, but I came from a completely different track. I was from the business stream. So when I went from secondary school to Poly, I think I was more practical, so I decided to go for Poly business. But my mom kind of looked at me and said, why are you doing in business? You're such an outgoing person. You should be doing comms. So after army, I kind of reconsidered whether I want to do business again. And I felt the answer was no. So when I did my research all around, I kind of realized that, hey, there are various unis offering their own communication courses. But what really sealed the deal for me in WICKIMI was the point whereby I asked around, and I realized that the culture here and the experience here was the main point that everybody was talking about. I think when it comes to degree, I think all we have in our mind is studying. But what about student life? What about the fun of it? And what about the things you can get away, or rather get out of the entire degree experience? And what really sealed the deal for me was the point where everybody said that in WICKIMI, it's cohesive and you get to make a lot of friends who are like-minded as well. Yeah.
This is not to say that we don't study, huh? We study hard and we play hard.
That's what I was about to point out.
Yeah.
I think for those who come from JC, it also helps in a way. I mean, in the smallest term, we have a module, compulsory module, which is information analytics. mathematics. So your math background, your science background would help with that. But this is a very, very small thing. Like, you don't have to be good at math or science to excel in Wikimwe. And if you're not really the kind of creative person who does like art or dance or music, there's still a place for you at Wikimwe. There's research tracks, like Yafeng is in, even though he's very musically inclined. But yeah, there's a place for everyone. Even if you come from JC and you have absolutely no background in using like Adobe Premiere Pro or Photoshop, you can learn it on the spot in Wikimwe because it's very, very hands-on. So even for a JC kid like me who has no experience being artsy, I still managed to learn my way and figure out my way through it. Yeah.
So I have to say, in the Wikimwe school, right, a lot of the introductory courses that you mentioned are actually very helpful in getting everybody up to speed and on the same level.
For sure.
Yeah, because when we first came in, I was a bit scared. Like, what about the comms diploma students who just came from poly? They must know everything already. Why are they still here?
They kind of do.
But in the end, through the introductory courses, we kind of all level up and become
just all
Equal footing. We're on an equal footing.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so then let's talk more details about our academic curriculum. So from year 1 to year 4. So year 1, typically the entire cohort take core courses from the Wikimwe school, and that includes like basic media writing, some theory modules like foundations of communication studies, and also other interesting modules like public speech and so on. And these courses are designed to give you a bit of a sampler or the flavor of various areas of communication studies. And from there, you will see what are the specialized areas, and from year 2 onwards, you can take more upper level modules that covers the details about the specific areas. But some of the questions that I hear from students is that whether they need to have any kind of background knowledge or hands-on skills like how to use Photoshop or how to do the editing for videos and so on. But we are not a company hiring our employees. We are a premium communication school that teaches our students how to do that. So, of course, if you know a bit of the tricks and skills and knowledge, if you have the knowledge, it will be helpful, but it's not required. So, do anyone of you want to chip in to share your experience?
I think maybe just to build up on the introductory courses that Prof. Bo and Eunice shared a bit about. What that does for us is get us all leveled on the same level, right? But also let us know what we want. Because I came in not knowing half a thing about film or writing.
Yes, it's true.
And in the end, I actually go, hey, I really like this. And that's why I'm gonna start to deep dive into it a little more.
I think for someone who came from the business school, right, it was a daunting task. Like coming in, I'm not too sure like what do I want to do, what does comms entail, So during year 1, I think what really helped me was the point where I figured out that journalism is something that I'm not gonna do. You see, so
Research for me.
So it's so wide to the point whereby you're able to think about what you want to do and then invest your time in it. And I think the fact is that when I came to Wikimwe, I do not know how to operate at all the editing software like Adobe Audition, Premiere Pro, Final Cut. Much less talking about touching a camera, But I think that's the best part about Wikimwe. It's the point where you come in, you just put your hands into, just deep dive into it, and then you realize that, hey, this is what I want. This is something maybe I wouldn't want. And then that's the whole point of like the year 1 modules. It was quite fun.
And I think it's important for us because later on when we go out into the industry, all these things kind of overlap. You can't say that I'm going to add, I will never touch broadcast ever, because ultimately what you see are videos online now, everything new media, right? So you must know when they mention this, it will be good to have this kind of knowledge and skill set.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think likewise, all the core modules really give me give me options like a buffet, and then I just pick what I wanted. But I think in recent years, we were year 1s like 3 years ago. I think the core modules have also changed, right?
Right. So I guess the broadening your perspective is important. And speaking of that, the NTU is introducing new interdisciplinary collaborative core modules for all incoming students.
Wow.
So if you are to join the NTU and the Wikimi School, you will take the Wikimi core modules, but also on top of that, you will take the university, the interdisciplinary collaborative core modules together with other students from other disciplines. And the purpose here is to, again, broaden your perspectives and to know how to tackle bigger societal problems like sustainability together with the students from different disciplines. So it'll be fun and very informative, a unique experience that you will have as a first year students. And that's the year one, the first year in like 10 minutes. So let's go to then the next year, year two. Year two, I guess the highlight is exchanges.
Yes.
I mean, although, yeah, unfortunately because of COVID-19, at the moment we are not continuing overseas exchanges, but the university NTU is allowing students to take the online modules from other universities overseas, and also we are offering some of the courses to overseas students to take so that we can offer some of the intercultural experience to our students. But let's say that COVID-19 will be over soon, then how our students have experienced their exchanges. So let's hear from them. How was your experience?
Well, I mean, I think for me, I went to Korea for my exchange and it was super fun. I mean, I love K-pop, K-drama, all things Korean culture. So for me, but I mean, on top of that, the studying part, working with like Koreans, finding out how comms is like in a different culture from a different perspective was really interesting. I think that's something that I can't get in Singapore. And for me, when I was at the Sukmyung Women's University, I did meet a lot of like Korean girls and a lot of like European boys. So it was really like best of both worlds for me, you know. Getting together, like Korean students, being like a Korean girl myself for like 6 months. Yeah, it was quite fun for me. Yeah.
Where do you go?
I went to the UK. So actually, I think the UK has one of the most number of universities out of all the options. But the great thing about choosing exchange, right, is that we're spoiled for choice. There's literally almost too many universities to choose from. So for me, I kind of tried to budget. I went to search cheapest city to live in the UK. So I ended up in the University of Sheffield, which is an hour from Manchester. But the thing is, I think most of us didn't really spend that much money. We all spent about the same because it's actually very easy to plan for your exchange and like, because we can miss a very collaborative school, right? So everyone's always just sharing tips and help points with each other. So we all know, like we can all benefit from saving money and having the best experience. So yeah, a lot of us went together. And in terms of school fees, actually we're paying the same school fees for exchange. So it's actually really great. And I hope you guys get to go because it's really the best. Like it was really the best
I would say
time.
life changing. But actually, I'm curious. You didn't get to go on exchange.
Yeah, for me, I consciously decided not to go. So it was for financial reasons. But I think what my main takeaway for the exchange period for you guys was I found my interest in audio. So sometimes when you try to bid for mods, the classes will be full. But I think during that exchange period, I managed to get a few mods that I really loved. So I really dabbled my hands into audio and media, and I found out my interest in sound. So I really love to edit sound and cut sound from there. And I think I did really well for that mod. And I think the other takeaway that I had was PR. I always thought PR is, like just buying mooncake for people, doing special occasions. Like PR, like, hey, hi. I mean, it was that. But actually, when I went deeper, I realized that, hey, it's so different. So I think for me, 2.2 was really finding out what I like, and also at the same time learning, even though I was still in Singapore.
So the learning never stops, whether you're overseas or you're.
I think what's amazing, like to tap on what Eunice said, we actually have a batch chat. And then everybody was just texting, hey, where are you guys? Like, can we come and find you all? At the same time, it's like, oh my gosh, here is so expensive. Hey, look out for this market in this area. So,
Apple pie here is really good.
Yes.
I remember seeing at one point when I was in Korea, and then some people were like, hey, Amsterdam kids, I'm coming over, can we catch up and stuff like that?
And not only that, we actually asked our seniors, what is the budgeting like? And then when our juniors asked us, we also
like, give
replied
the same
accordingly.
information.
We even give them like itineraries along the way as well. So I think it's really like
Actually, on that point, I like to highlight that in school, right, even though we're one batch, right, we communicate between all the other batches.
It's crazy.
We're always
Like-
giving advice, learning from each other, inspiring each other, because everyone does such amazing things outside also.
Yeah.
So that's always very cool.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the reasons why we take exchange in year 2 is because in year 3 we have a professional internship in the second semester. So 3.1 you usually would prefer to like stay in Singapore to do like your interviews and do job sourcing, even though it's still possible to take an exchange in 3.1 because some schools don't offer the modules that you want in the summer semester, which is when 2.2.
Yes.
So it's okay to take your exchange in 3.1 as well. So there's a lot of flexibility here.
Right. So we'll go to the internship a bit later, but let me just wrap up our discussion about exchanges. Yes, I mean students don't have to go on overseas exchanges.
Yes.
But if I share a fact with you, about more than 80% of our Wikimi students have some kind of overseas experiences. It can be a semester-long exchanges or could be a short-term practicum or experiential learning modules that we offer. But the important point here is that opportunities are here. So if you are really keen, there are ways you can have this kind of overseas experiences without spending a huge amount of money. So that's there. But if you decide not to do so, I guess that's totally fine. There are other plenty of opportunities here in the school that you can still enjoy. And year 2 is the usual kind of period where majority of our students have the semester-long exchange, but you can choose to do so in other timing as well. But as Eunice just mentioned, year 3, the highlight is our semester-long internship. So that's why scheduling could be a bit tricky, but let's hear from what kind of diverse experience that our students have from their internship. So who wants to go first?
Me.
So myself, I actually interned at TBWA, which is a global network agency. Right. So I was very lucky to be able to be accepted into a design content creator role. So what that is, right? It's actually to create the stuff you see on social media and to try and engage the audience. So for me, an internship is an invaluable experience. I'm sure all of you agree. Because you should see us when we come back and share these experiences, right? You really feel like everybody's just leveled up. Everybody is on this new level, and everybody has this vast knowledge behind them when they speak about their experiences, and they bring this into the curriculum when we come back. You know? So for myself, I was never very good at After Effects. Somehow through the job, right? You spend so many hours working on it. Suddenly, you become After Effects god. And you also learn that social. At first my traditional way of thinking was that social media marketing is anything. It's not very important. But nowadays, if you think about it, and it was only through working on it, you realize that social media marketing is the new phase of advertising.
It's really the way to go.
Because how are you going to make people stop and engage with their handphone for that moment? And how do you value add to the experience? You don't want to just catch them. You want to make sure that you value add to their lives as well. And in communications, that's what we want to do.
True.
We want to send a message and want them to act on something. Right?
I think for my internship experience, right, it was a little bit different because I'm in a journalism track, but I have never done any kind of broadcast journalism. So far I was just doing like written journalism, like basic media writing, news reporting and writing. So I think for that year, CNA wasn't really hiring like writers. So instead they offered the position of a TV producer. So it's actually very cool because if you miss out on learning certain modules in school like broadcast, you can learn it during your PI itself and you learn on the job. So I was a TV producer for Channel News Asia. I wrote scripts that the anchors would read. I coordinated live interviews with like the correspondents overseas and with like interviews with like guests such as business analysts, that kind of thing. So all my written journalism experience actually came in handy, like business journalism. So it helps you to think of questions to ask your interviewees. So whatever you learn in school, even if you don't directly do it, like I don't directly write a business news article, it still comes in handy into my industry experience.
And I think what's cool is that we are given an equal standing with the people we're working with. They don't treat you like, at least I speak from my own experience. In GWA, they treat you like equals.
But Wikimi School is also well known for our alumni network. So have you met any of our own alum during your internship?
I guess for all of us, before we actually decide on a certain internship company, right, we actually definitely have to consult the people who have done it already.
True.
So I talked to Zeph,
Yeah.
Michelle Racho.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk to a lot of our seniors about it. Actually, for me, when I was on my internship, I interned at a PR agency called White Label PR, and I was interviewed by an alumni.
Wow.
Like, so she graduated, I think, 2 years ago, and then when she spoke to me, she's like, "Oh, I'm from the Wikimi school as well." And I was like, "Oh, yes, me too, you know." And it was quite interesting, it was quite exciting. So we like caught up a bit on school. She asked me how it's been going, how it's like now, what the differences, are the benches still like the benches and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's quite exciting.
The
Actually.
benches, for all your information, is just where we gather and do our
Yes.
homework.
The magical
We
place.
eat.
Yes, it's our gathering space.
Yeah, and the school also provides us with like the portal with like so many companies. It's almost like exchange, you know. You kind of
Yeah.
like just spoiled for choice.
Yeah.
Reading job descriptions,
Really.
finding out where to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
My senior once told me this, it's not hard to get a job once you study in Wikimi, because Wikimi itself is a brand of endorsement, and you have, all these connections. Your
Yeah.
lecturers have connections. They were once industry, they were
Big
dealing
shots.
with you.
Yeah,
Big
for
shots.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, yes, Wikimi School is well known for its balanced approach between conceptual knowledge and also hands-on skills. And in the middle of that is experiential learning. If you consult other universities, other programs, they will say, yeah, we do have experiential learning as well. Then you ask more detailed questions, so what are those? And they say, oh, we have the class project where students do the group work and then submit their proposal. But in the Wikimi School, we want our students to have their hands dirty by applying the concepts and knowledge they learn from different courses to actually tackle the issues, right? So the internship is one of that. We have that in year 3, semester 2, so that students have some communication skills and knowledge that they learn from the courses and see how they are applied in the actual industry. And we have a wide range of companies. Actually, I guess the ratio between the number of our students and the number of companies that want to hire our students as interns is 1 to 3.6 or somewhere around that. So these students
Throwing the numbers up there.
had the options that they could choose. So
Yeah.
they were like happy students, right? So that leads to, I guess, year 4, where we have only the highlight of the 4-year education in the Wikimi School, that is final year project. I believe that you all are still working on your final year project, so
Yes.
memory must be very fresh.
Yes.
So why don't you share what you're doing with our audience?
Yeah, so for me, I'm in the public relations track, so I'm working on a campaign final year project. But amongst all the final year projects, we have like narrative and documentary films, we have illustrator, photojournalism feature writing, campaign, and like research. And I think for me, the key highlight of doing a final year project is really to experience the interdisciplinary like aspect of the Wikimi School and our curriculum. And like, just because I'm doing a campaign final year project, I still get to get my hands in on like research, on broadcast, on journalism, and on advertising and public relations itself.
Yeah.
So
Personally, I took a way different track.
Yeah.
So personally, I feel that I'm more of a campaigns person. But I decided to challenge myself during my final year because I've been running external campaigns. So I think for myself, I decided to challenge myself, and that's why I decided to take on research. So what exactly is research? A lot of people will be thinking it's just about the numbers. But actually, way before we crunch the numbers, we actually think of what makes people tick. What set their psychology in place, and I think we deep dive into that and we go into the research that are currently out there, and we do a lot of background research before we actually implement an experiment or implement something for them to study their behavior as per se, and I think that's what really intrigues me, because we talk about communications, right? It is more than just verbal, it is more than just words, but the art that goes behind it. And I think what is special in Wikimi is that the art is taught in an experiential manner. So we are not just here like showing our skills, dabble in everything. But the school generally builds us up in a way whereby we understand the principles and concepts behind it. So when we apply it, we get to see it happening, and if it doesn't work, we tweak it again. So for me, research was kind of interesting because other than the numbers, which I may not be necessarily good at, but I think the art behind it is what really intrigues me. And I dare to challenge myself, like just go for it, learn from it, because I think at the end of the day, communications is also more than just numbers. But it's really how you bring the message across to the people. Yeah, so even for myself, I had to do with VR. So based on that, right, like
VR, virtual reality.
yes, virtual reality. So behind this experiment in itself, we have people doing like the filming. So it's more than just one category.
One track.
Yes, that one track. But tracks from like journalism comes into play whereby we have people writing about news. Then the other track is we have people publicizing our research, which is like campaigns.
Yeah, like writing your
Yes,
press
PR.
release and stuff.
And then we have people from broadcast doing all the filming. It all comes into play. It's like the same body, but different parts of the body.
Yeah.
So that really works it for me.
Yeah, I mean same, likewise when we do campaign and we start with like research and then we go into the broadcast area because
Yes.
we have to film our content and then
Yes.
we load our content and
Yeah.
then we write pictures, press
Correct.
releases
Correct.
and liaise with the media. So it's
Yeah.
really just like all four into one.
And I think especially when it comes to like campaigns group, right? When their collateral starts coming out, like people like Ang will like, hi, I can help, like design stuff, After Effects, your
But they
Insta
did
stories.
brilliantly with their own group. Their
Yeah,
team has
correct.
interdisciplinary
Yeah.
members, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Raphael who does copywriting.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that's the fun part of like being in a weekly school doing our FYP. It's really
Correct.
like a space to learn, space to grow, space to like fall down and pick ourselves back up
True.
throughout all our final year projects.
I think I want to do a shout out to the tech team in Weeking Week.
Yeah.
Because for myself, I actually am an ad guy.
Yeah.
But I decided, when else am I going to get this access to this wide range of materials? This
Equipment.
studio, I got to use it
Yeah.
for 2 weeks when I did my final year project.
Yeah.
So we have a good relationship with the tech team, and we can loan it out to do our own personal projects and also
Correct.
schoolwork.
Correct.
It's just it's a good way to learn with the equipment that you get used to later on in the industry.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Like, where else do you get a full decked out audio studio?
Yeah.
Like, I remember I was in the studio room ever since morning till night, right? Just editing sound, and just listening in speakers with the software working, everything. It was.
Yeah, I wonder where else. Maybe the weekly school.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
I think for journalism itself, right, it might seem like it's just writing, but actually we can take away we can apply the skills from like advertising or creative modules in order to succeed in it. Because journalism at its core is also about telling a story, and because the FYP is feature journalism, not hard news. So it's more soft news. You want to read something pleasant and interesting like Rise Media, and you have to package your story very nicely. So somehow, in some ways, I realized that the copywriting skills that I learned from advertising classes comes in quite helpfully. And also because for a lot of journalism FYPs, we want to publish our project as like a magazine or like an online website. So then our skills in terms of like print and digital publication, like layouts in InDesign will come in handy.
Yeah.
And even your web design skills that we learn in year one in our foundation, it comes in handy also.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things, even in something like journalism, you will need interdisciplinary skills.
For my own documentary film, actually, you mentioned website design. We actually had to do out this website and run this campaign to make money for our film.
Fundraising.
So all this really comes, you see
Everything
it's a
comes
combination
together.
of all the
Yeah.
things you have done to Weeking Week in your
Yeah.
final year project.
For
Yep.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so our society is getting more complicated, and one in-depth knowledge is good, but is not good enough anymore. So people need to have multiple skills, especially how they share the messages that they want to share with other people, right? So in that sense, personally, I think that communication is really a rising field in the Industry 4.0 or disruptive industry that we are facing nowadays. I guess now is toward the end of this live talk today. So let me pick up my iPad and look at what are the questions that we have received so far. Hopefully some of the good questions. So let me
Yes.
check.
Yeah, and so if you have any more questions about academic years and about the Weeking School that we're not going to cover in this live chat, you can still chat with us online at weekingweeksci.live, and we'll have students who will be there to answer your questions as well.
All right, so I guess we received a few good questions that we want to address during this live talk session. So let me first look at the most interesting question. Right. So some of you already shared how it's like to study in the Wikimi School because our school is well known for the good community, right? But the question here is that what is the Wikimi SCI culture like? What is the cohort size like? And do I have to be loud and friendly? What do you think?
Okay. I personally am very loud.
Did it help?
Yeah, it helps. But I think Wikimi is really inclusive.
Yeah.
I'm having gone through the freshman orientation program. You realize you and I were the loudest in the team.
Yes.
But then the seniors made sure to check in on everybody. And
Yeah.
the quiet ones were always, they have fun also. All of us just have fun together.
Yeah.
There was no like, the loud ones will do better, the quiet ones
Yeah.
will do worse. Yeah.
I think it's also about like finding your space. I mean, with every cohort, we have around like 200 people. So it's a really small cohort, but really cohesive and like bonded. We kind of know every person, even if you're like a loud person, like everyone will know you. But even if you're on the more quieter side, don't worry, people will also know you. Like you'll definitely find your spot.
Yeah.
And I'm from like the CI Club, which is the Communication and Information Club. So we are a student club and we organize events for the rest of the student body. And we make sure that there is a space for everyone, whether extroverted, introverted, whether you think you're loud and quiet or not, there's definitely like a place for you.
Yeah.
I represent the introverted kids. So you can still make friends if you're introverted and you don't like reaching out because there's a lot of different like ad hoc events and committees that you can join and then you'll definitely make friends and know people there. So I went for Vivo, like I mentioned, which is like an overseas, half of it is an overseas traveling to maybe a place like Laos. We went to Laos, I went with him. And then you definitely will make friends because we spend like 10 days back to back living in a village. Definitely you'll
Without
make
your phones.
Yes, without your phones. Or else you can join like the freshman orientation program committee, which I went with Rochelle. And then you can join that as well. There's also this committee called Papa, which is like a live production, a theater production, which she was also in.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that you can join. So you definitely will have chance to make friends, even if you're not the kind of person who wants to mix with a very large group, because there are these smaller committees that will let you have very one-on-one interaction with your friends.
Yeah.
So there's a space for introverts.
There's really something for everyone here.
Yeah,
Yes.
true.
So
And
if you like theatre, you can have
Yeah.
paparazzi.
Yeah.
If you like to volunteer, you can do Vivo.
Yeah.
correct,
Yeah,
correct,
for
correct.
sure.
Just be open-minded and see what are the opportunities out there. So regardless of your personality and your preference, I guess there is always something for you. So as long as you're open-minded and look for that. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
So the next question, I guess we mentioned a few times about experiential learning in the Wikimi School. So the question here is that are all overseas experiential learning courses canceled because of COVID-19? Well, yeah, that's the really sad event that unexpectedly happened. So we had to, in fact, cancel a few our own short-term overseas experiential learning courses. But thankfully, we were able to quickly change a few of them, and also we conducted them locally, although the original purpose was to have the overseas experience. So can any of you share that kind of?
Yes, I was the sacrificial lamb. Take part in so there's this journalism module. It's like the most advanced journalism module that every Gen kid wants to go in since year one. It's called GOFA, Going Overseas for Advanced Reporting. So GOFA. Yes, amazing, right? Yeah. So that's because every year they go to a different country. Like last year they went to Okinawa. The year before they went to, I think it was Estonia. Yeah. So and then they went to Iran, Nepal, a lot of cool countries. So we were also excited, like, where are we going this year? And then COVID came. So, but then our professor Hedwig, she fought for this mod to be continued. And so we stayed in Singapore and we covered a migrant workers special project. So in a way, it was still going very far because we went to places that we would never go to, like migrant worker dormitories. We went to Tuas, which is, no one goes there. And we went very far out of our comfort zone. So in terms of experiential learning overseas, sometimes you can still do it in your own homeland because it's really just about stepping out of your comfort zone. So we were quite lucky that GoFa still happened. And hopefully after COVID, you guys will definitely get the chance to go because it's not like a once every 5 years thing, it's every year.
Yeah, and I think on top of like GoFa and South by Southwest, I personally was from the Perspectives Film Festival committee. And in the committee, we were hoping to be able to do like a hybrid event, but because of COVID, we still challenged ourselves And and 2020 was the first year we went fully online, fully virtual.
Yo.
So even though we were a bit disappointed, now we're super happy to be like, oh yeah, we were the first to do this virtual film festival.
It was
so
very
quite
nice.
exciting.
I really enjoyed all
I
the
loved
films
it.
that I bought.
Thanks, guys.
The 3 films that I bought.
Yeah.
So yeah, experiential learning, very experienced.
Right. So again, yeah, with COVID-19, still there is uncertainty whether we can quickly resume these kinds of overseas courses just now, but we'll see. But the school is well prepared, so we are. Anytime when the situation comes back to the normal, then we'll resume our wonderful experience learning courses. So stay tuned for that. All right.
Yep.
Good. So I have another question. Okay. So I guess this is a good one. So what is the difference between public relations and advertising? So Wikimi School has a few different subdomains, specializations. One of them is public relations and advertising. Can any of you want to share how you see
This is
the
actually a
difference?
very good, relevant question.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will start with the similarities. PR and advertising, both are tools that us communicators use, right, to bring across a certain message to an audience.
Yeah.
Now the difference, right, if I have to put it into layman terms, would be that for PR, public relations, you're looking at brand image. How does the audience perceive your brand?
Yeah.
Whereas for advertising, you're trying to plug your product to them, right? To just very layman, right? But the beauty of Wikimi School is that you don't learn one as an isolated study.
Yeah.
You learn them both together because
Correct.
they really come together. For,
Yeah.
for it to be very effective, you need to do both at the same time.
Yeah.
Something like that, something like
Yeah, so
that.
I guess then the technical term is like PR would be more like earned media, and then advertising is more paid media.
Yes.
And for the PR side, we also like talk about like corporate comms, we do like media relations, but for the ad side, it's mostly just ad buys and stuff like that. But then with our curriculum, we learn all together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You really need to be skilled in all of this in order to really tell a story because that is what it is. You know, we are all storytellers.
Yeah.
Whether you're using a camera, whether you're using your writing, it's all about conveying a message.
Yes.
Campaigns, FYP, you both need to do. You need to do both advertising and PR.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do everything.
I dodged that bullet. Okay, doing
Yeah.
podcasts.
So yeah, in the Wikimi School, we approach that from like strategic communication or integrated marketing communication perspective. So students learn actually both sides of the stories and how to do that,
Yeah.
which is helpful and which reflect more accurately how the industry work nowadays.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, some more questions. Okay. Must my English be good to enter Wikimi School? Again, the short answer is of course yes. But we are not talking about grammar kind of English, the kind of test that you have taken before. It's more of conveying the message accurately and adequately, right? So that's a slightly different kind of English, but yes, as a communication student, we expect you to be really good at communication,
Yeah.
but also we do have some like base media writing course where you can learn how to communicate from the communications perspective.
Yeah.
I would say please don't let it deter you if you have a passion for communication. Even though your English may not be the strongest, just go in and you know what they say. If you spend time with peers and you practice the language,
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
get better
Yeah.
and better at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You expand your vocabulary. We have a speech module that challenges a lot of us during
Yeah.
year one. So it's really fun. So please, don't let it deter you.
Yeah, that's
Come, try it out. Yeah.
All right, good. So next question. All right, so next question is what is the difference between CS and CSBU? So I guess Eunice, you can
Yes.
answer this question. What's the difference?
Okay, in terms of workload, in terms of the number of modules, it's actually the same, which is why I decided to take CSBU, which is Communication Studies with a second major in business. So what it actually is that it just converts all your, let me just break it down first. So in terms of our curriculum, right, we have a certain number of Wikimwi modules, and then we have a certain number of unrestricted electives. So this one is basically modules like that you can take for fun. For example, like pottery classes, cooking, dancing, squash,
Ceramics.
astronomy, that kind of thing.
We even have
So those are the
sewing,
fun modules.
embroidery. Yes.
And then you have this thing called general. What's just
General elective.
electives.
Yeah.
So that one will be more like liberal arts,
Business.
science, that
Science.
kind of thing. So what you do in CSBU is basically you convert your unrestricted electives and the general science, that kind of thing, into business modules and you streamline everything.
Right.
So it's the same number of modules as them. You're not taking like more modules or anything. Unlike a double degree, double major is the same number. It's just that you cannot use the SU option, which is like, SU is to take a mod and then you just put your grade as pass or fail and then it will affect your GPA. But yeah, you can't use that when you have a second major or else you have to drop it. But I mean, what I think is, why I chose it was that I think that double major is actually really very useful because I'd rather learn and streamline everything and then get like a more focused and holistic background in business, because business is actually very relevant in anything, any sector that you work in, because whichever company you work in, business is the foundation.
It's still dollars and cents.
Yeah. So it definitely helps a lot to have business background. But I do think that if you're not really interested in working in some kind of corporate environment, then it might not be the thing for you. You know, if you want to just like relax and do more like liberal artsy kind of thing, then business might not be for you. Yeah. So it's really like you have to weigh your options and speak to some seniors who do it, because in every batch there's at least like 10 seniors who do CSBU. So yeah, you can find out more about that.
Right. Yeah. Some people misunderstand this and believing that having a second major or double major is way better than a single major, but that's not the purpose. The second major in business, this CSBU, is to help those students who have specific goal and the kind of future career path that they want to have in the field of business, then this module is good. But if not, I guess single major in communication studies itself is good enough. And on top of that, there are plenty of opportunities for you to explore in the university. So I guess that could give you more time to do other things. Speaking of other teams, I guess another question, I guess here, well, it's not specifically related to the Wikimi School, but what is whole life like? So, do any of you stayed in hall?
Oh, I did, but I mean, personally for me, whole life is really just like, how do I sum it up? It's a very exciting place to be. Staying in school, it really makes it so much more convenient to come down to Wikimi School every day. Traveling is not so much like a chore because I just take the campus bus. I can get to school in 10 minutes. But whole life is really, it kind of like elevates the school experience. I mean, even if you didn't stay in hall, I'm sure you had the same school experience. Yeah, and then there are also other opportunities to do things that the Wikimi School also offers. So like orientation camps, so I get to do 2 orientation camps, and then like productions, I get to possibly do 2. And being in hall, also I get to hang out with all my Wikimi School friends. Like personally for me, I found like a very nice group of like 9 of us, and we always meet for breakfast. So it started in like year 1, and then all 9 of us will meet for breakfast, and then we'll head for Prof. Bo's lectures together, and it was really quite fun. It was really like highlight of my year 1, just having breakfast together in hall, living in like communal spaces, and being able to discuss about like schoolwork in our own time and comforts of our own room in hall.
It's very social, like whole life.
If you didn't already have an opportunity to live autonomously, then whole life is the perfect time, because we young Singaporeans, we stay with our mom and dad, our families. But then once you go in the hall, you actually have to do your washing yourself.
Yeah, it's like you have to look after yourself.
You have to fold your own clothes.
Yeah, that's right.
Now I hear people complain about, people are taking up the dryer, people are taking up the washing machine.
Yeah, like you have $1
Then $1
coin.
coin.
I need laundry coin.
Those are important, $1 coins.
Oh, I think one good thing about whole life is that you can join CCAs at a very low commitment, because there are NTU level CCAs. The sports tend to be of a higher league where you need to take part in like inter-uni games, that kind of thing. Whereas for whole life, it's like the games are more low skill, so you can try out things like basketball, tennis, that kind of thing that you never ever try, and you can be like terrible at it. But in hall, nobody cares because it's just a place to learn and have fun. So I do think that it's quite good to have a hall experience. But if you don't, you can always visit your friends' halls and then just like see what it's like in there. So it's not necessary to have the full package, but it adds a touch to your experience.
If you don't stay in hall, and if you stay like really far away from NTU, like in the east like I do, actually the traveling is not so bad. Commute is actually quite therapeutic.
Get used to it.
Yeah, and then you kind of get used to it, you kind of enjoy and like celebrate when you open your eyes and Boon Lay or Pioneer without missing your stop. It's quite fun actually. Yeah. But if not, then if you want to experience the whole life, then sign up.
Oh, I have this to add though. If you are in year 1 and year 2, you are guaranteed
Yeah.
all. So
Guaranteed all.
no
Yeah.
worries.
Yep.
Because
Right,
that
yeah.
really adjust.
Again, opportunities. So going back to academic side, I have a question about what is communication research. So Yao-Fang?
Okay, so communication research, don't be mistaken by what it actually is. I think when we talk about research communications, we always think about numbers. I think that's an important part. I think the world is ever changing, and right now with the era of data, numbers, big data sets are everything. I bet some of you have been hearing about like what is going on out there. You know, TikTok, Google, Apple, all of these people are collecting data. You know, so pretty much what we do is we crunch the numbers, we do statistical tests, you know, like ANOVA and all that kind of stuff with like our softwares, and we figure out what is actually making these people tick. So like what I've said earlier, communication research is more of understanding what happens at the background, why people act the way that they do, and work on previous generations' research on certain behaviors that they have, certain communication theories that they have, what is actually going on out there, and then when we think about those concepts, we actually apply it to modern day. So we do have experiments on virtual reality. We do have experiments on fake news as well.
Yeah.
You know, and I think some of my friends, they are doing really interesting things. They are doing about health communications.
Yeah.
What makes people want to get healthy? You know, like do shocking them with diabetes really work? You know, that kind of thing. So we actually crunch those numbers, and as much as you think that it doesn't affect advertising, it actually does.
Yeah.
Because when we find out like the behavioral patterns of people, we know what to put in our collaterals. And then we know what kind of messaging to frame it through.
Yeah.
So I think with the ever-changing society of how data works and how people are always constantly on their phones and giving their data out there, I think that in itself makes research a future of what it actually is. So it's going more than just print, but also understanding what goes behind the scenes. You know, and I think even for like banking industries or even like retail, what product sells the most?
Yeah.
Have you ever wondered about that? Like, why are certain products in certain places but not in some other shops?
Yeah.
You know, it's this kind of data that we crunch to the bare minimum, and we have job offers. I think for my cousin, who's also in WikiMe, he actually works for Nielsen's, and he actually dabbled into things like why are cigarettes selling especially well in petrol kiosks and not in 7-Eleven? You know, these kind of things. And I think those kind of things make sense, even though we don't really necessarily deal with human behaviors as well. There are some other aspects to it. So comms research, it's a budding aspect of our society, and I think it's really great if you have an interest in what makes people tick. I think that may be something you want to explore as well.
I think
Yeah.
Prof. Chuki puts it best. Numbers are just numbers until you
Make sense of it.
make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Correct. Yep.
So to put it simply, think of our specializations as different ways of storytelling, right?
Yeah.
So in research, you are convincing people with the data and different ways to do it, like data visualization and so on. In journalism, you're doing so with the photos and the text. In broadcast, you're showing the films and documentaries. In campaigns, then a series of events and so on. So these are all different ways, different forms of sharing the messages, but the core idea behind all different activities are to share the message and also let other people understand where you're from, right? So
Yeah.
I guess that's an easy way to think of them. All right, so I guess we are heading toward the end, but I just want to share a few more questions. There are many questions coming in, thank for that. So, okay, when do I have to decide on a track? Right, so we do have different specializations, and we moved away from declaring specialization again because our society is entering a bit more interdisciplinary environment. So I guess students don't need to declare their specialization anymore. But there are some prereq courses that students need to clear before they embark on their final year project. So other than that, we allow students to mix match different modules to have like multimedia journalism and advertising, data, visualization all together, right? So I guess that's another strength of the Wikimi School. And let me see what else. Oh, okay. So another question about the internship. Do I have to look for my own PI company? Anyone?
Mine is self-sourced.
Mine was self-sourced.
Mine was also.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually my company TBWA is definitely on our partners list.
Yeah.
But because I kiasu, I
Oh,
just want to
same,
hit
same.
them earlier before
Yeah.
the rest
Yes.
got to it. So I think we are all very motivated to get
Yeah.
an internship,
Yeah.
everyone, right? So
Yeah.
of course we all self-source. But actually, everyone eventually got an internship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't worry. Don't be scared of the kiasu people. You'll still get a spot. Because there are people who did not. Okay, I self-sourced for my role in CNA, but there are people who didn't do it and they
Got
got in the
into
same
the
internship as
offer,
me. So there's nothing to worry about. I mean, just puts my mind at ease.
I think this goes down to finding out your interests as well. You know, so regarding the point of do I have to decide my specialization? Don't worry about it. I think when you come here during year one, you find out what you like, what you don't like, what you maybe like. You know, you grow along the years. And I think for myself, as much as I love PR and advertising, I think what I decided to do at year 3 was to straight jump to a research. Yeah, so I made my decision kind of late as well. And even though, so like I was doing research in FYP right now, but I interned in in SPH, which is a journalism firm. So at the end of the day, don't worry about it. If you find your interest in what you really like, go for it, self-source for it. Even if you don't, we ourselves, we have partners collaboration with external companies. And so I think beyond that, it's really quite robust, I would say.
I guess on specialization, it's really like what's the best dish you can cook. You know? So let's say I always cook Italian meals. That is my specialization. But who's to say I can't drop Italian and just cook Chinese one day?
Yeah.
Not wrong.
By the way, internships, you can do it overseas as well. So I had a senior who did like the Paris Fashion Week. She self-sourced that herself. So it's open. There's actually an OEP, right? Overseas Entrepreneurship Program, where they send students overseas to do their PI there. So that's one thing that you can consider as well when the whole COVID thing ends.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, so our internship is special because students are doing that for their own industry experience, but also doing that for their academic units. So we assign our faculty supervisor to each student. So they check on the companies, make sure that our students are doing the right work, not just the mundane kind of coffee delivery kind of work or making copies. So not like that. So even for self-sourcing the internship companies, our faculty supervisors do visit the company and check on students, and students need to submit their reflection essay like twice or 3 times. So that could really make this internship experience very special, right? So I guess that's we are almost end of today's live session. I'm sorry that we couldn't address all the questions that you put on the Slido, but we'll get back to them. So please stay tuned for our live chat with our current students. Today, probably the amount of information is overwhelming for you, so you may give it a break, have a good sleep tonight. Maybe tomorrow you may come up with another interesting question that you want to know, which is good. We want you to make good informed decision because this is really important 4-year investment for you, right? And we want you to choose the right school for you and also be happy when you decide to join the Wikimi School. So please take your time, think about it, gather as much information as you can, and a good way is to engage in the live chat with our current students, so please do so, all right? And also, we do have, as I said earlier, if you still remember, we do have physical open house scheduled for next week with, of course, good safety measures placed, right? So please register for that physical open house and come down and look at the facilities meet with our students and talk to our faculty members, and that will give you another good amount of information that could help you to make good final informed decision. All right? Okay, then I guess that's it for today. So I hope you stay healthy and goodbye. So let's wave our hands.
We'll be there too. See you.
See ya.
See you guys.
Bye.
Got that vibe, yeah, I ain't petty. Looking fly, yeah, they ain't ready. I can shine, I'ma do what I'm made to do. I'm real, better watch me go. I got the voice and I got that flow. For all the girls, gotta let them know. We the ones that run this show.